posso falar com eles? Sentar eles. Ah, mas pode.
Ela está lá também. Não, mas acho que ela
Bonjour. Bom dia. Bonjour. Eu vou falar em português e francês para deixar tudo claro. Mesmo se eu poderia falar em inglês, prefiro fazer as duas rapidinho. Então, vou começar em português. Muito obrigado, diretor, para essa recepção, essa cerimônia, esse momento muito importante para a delegação francesa que está visitando o Brasil, bem rápido, 3 dias, mas isso é só um começo. A gente vai ter muitos mais eventos em seguida. Bonjour à tous. Donc, je viens de remercier le directeur du CBPF pour son accueil et pour ce moment, un mélange de formalité et informalité. Et je disais que c'est une visite qui a été très rapide, 3 jours au Brésil. Ce n'est que le premier d'une grande série, j'espère, e donc on va revenir très certainement. Então, para não perder muito tempo, eu vou começar o evento convidando o diretor do CBPF, Março de Albuquerque, para fazer uma rápida apresentação desse centro lindíssimo, onde fazer ciência, faz algumas semanas ainda, era heroísmo. E agora, esperamos que vai ser uma coisa muito mais fácil, começando com essas mudanças que vocês conhecem. Donc, pour ne pas perdre du temps, j'ai invité le directeur du centre à présenter le centre, ce lieu légendaire de science au Brésil, qui a donné naissance à d'autres lieux légendaires, et où je disais qu'encore il y a quelques mois, faire de la science, c'était de l'héroïsme, et que donc j'espère qu'à partir, et nous espérons tous que depuis quelques mois, cet héroïsme se transforme en quelque chose de beaucoup plus léger, où on va pouvoir collaborer et faire des choses jolies ensemble. Muito obrigado.
Obrigado, Lívio. Bonjour à tous. Bonjour à toutes. I guess the workshop will be in English. Yes, I will switch to English now. But I want to welcome you all. I am Márcio de Albuquerque, as Lívio said, the director of CBPF. First, thank you, Lívio, for this organization, for this event. I would like to thank you, Mr. Petit, here. Thank you very much. I would like to thank you, Mr. Lima from FAPERJ, that also is coming for this event. And I would like also to welcome you all here in this auditorium, also following us in the virtual room and also in the internet. Thank you very much. The idea of this workshop was to discuss and present the cooperation opportunities between France and Brazil. First, I should mention that today we are celebrating the International Women's Day. It's important to recognize the difficulties and the achievements that have been made to ensure gender equalities and the permanent struggles for women's rights. So I would like to congratulate all the women for this day. Let me say a few words about CBPF. I know that the French delegation was visiting the institution, but I will be a little more repetitive. Sorry for that. CBPF is part of the Brazilian Infrastructure for Science and Technology, and we are linked to the Brazilian Ministry of Science, Technology and Innovation. We are now 74 years old. And during these 70 years, CBPF produces knowledge, participates in the socio-economic development of Brazil, and expands into new disciplines in physics. And today, research remains an essential asset for our country's economic and social development. We are organized, into these 4 pillars: research, to push forward the frontiers of knowledge, the innovation, to develop new technologies, education, train scientists for tomorrow, and promote science in society. CBPF, we cover a quite large area of physics, experimental, theoretical, and applied. High energy physics, we visited the laboratory in the 5th floor. Condensed matter, nanoscience, and nanotechnology. We also visited the infrastructure of these disciplines. Biophysics and biomaterials, part of this meeting this morning. Statistical mechanics and complex systems, quantum information and quantum computing. And I should say that we are working also in quantum technology. We are building with the ministry the first laboratory for quantum technology here in CBPF. We have already the funds, and this is an important project for the next years. We have cosmology and gravitation, artificial intelligence, that also we visited this laboratory, and scientific instrumentation. We have an important graduate program that in the visit we touch a little bit the students that are here in CBPF. We have 2 important programs, a master and a doctorate in physics, and a master dedicated only to scientific instrumentation development. We are the first Brazilian institution to officially grant master and PhD degrees in Brazil. These graduate programs celebrate last year 60 years. And during this 6th year, we graduate more than 1,000 students, most of them from Brazil, but many of them from northern Brazilian states and Latin American countries. And this program is considered one of the best graduated programs in the country. We have many cooperation with industries, innovation to industry, the Brazilian framework for innovation. Most of the laboratory we visited has relation to Petrobras in the area of quantum computing, artificial intelligence, nanotechnology. We have in the area of biomaterial research in collaboration to industry in medical implants, and many of them also in surface and interface research with Vale, for example, and Valurec, that was mentioned in the visit. In the field of popularization, promote science on society, I guess I should mention that one of my colleagues asked me not to forget to mention, but let me see if it will return the signal. Our library in the 4th floor, we pass very quickly because of our schedule, is one of the most important library in physics in America Latina. I guess I should say not one of the most important library in physics in Latin America. And this is a space where we can promote exhibitions linked to science. We have a wall that we visit that is dedicated to discuss science with the street, if I can say like that. It's an important project to promote science in this area of Botafogo and Urca. Many people come to this wall where we paint the graffiti to take photos and put in the media, social medias. It's very important for us, this project. I should say that you can visit and understand a little bit more about this project. We have also a program to training teacher for high schools in Rio. Many teachers come to CBPF to collaborate with research people. And another one for high schools that try to show how to be a physicist. The students come here and spends one day here and how to be a researcher in physics. It's a very interesting program also to discuss with the society. I should mention again in this photo over there in the right side, our library that we pass very quickly, but it's an important part of CBPF also. Let me say a few words about ourselves the last years. In these last years, we have been operating with many high and lows. I guess everybody understand what was passing in Brazil, but especially because of the pandemic situation and because of the budget restriction for science and technology. I should say, in my opinion, we are now in a new moment. But with many discussions about science and technology, science and society priorities for the next years. A moment of reconstruction. I guess you understand what I'm saying. Science is important to improve quality of life. Science is fundamental to democracy. Our knowledge must continue to build new worlds that are more sustainable, more just, more open, and more tolerant. Science is part of that path. And I should say that part of this path, this reconstruction, is to strengthen cooperation with strong institutions around the world. And CNRS is an important partner for us in Brazil. I would like to finish here, leave you. Thank you again. I would like to thank you all. Thank you, the audience. Thank you for those that are following us in the internet. And I hope you have a very good discussion with this cooperation. Thank you again, Petit, Dr. Petit. Thank you, Gerson, for coming. Thank you all. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Marcio. So without expecting any more, I will invite our president, Professor Antoine Petit, for the presentation of our CNRS.
So thank you very much. Hello to everybody. First of all, I want to apologize, but my Portuguese is not bad. It does not exist at all. And I was very impressed by the quality of the French of all of our colleagues. So congratulations, and apologize for my, once again, non-existing Portuguese. I would like to definitely support Marcio in his mention of this day, 8th of March, the day of the rights of the woman. And the question of women in science, I think, is very important everywhere, in France too. In CNRS, we have about 35% of female researchers, but with very, very various ratio depending on disciplines. And we know, for instance, that in computer science, in mathematics, is less than 20%, whereas in humanities, social sciences, and biology, it's a bit more, and it's good. But one problem we face is first to recruit female researchers, but also to give them a career which is similar to the career of the men researchers. And so clearly it's an important day. Even I think that the rights of women have to be taken into account, not only today, but also during all the days of the year. So let me give some words, some presentation about CNRS. So CNRS, our raison d'être, in some sense, is to do basic research for the benefit of the society. So I think it's not very different of what you presented, Marcio. So how can I have the next slide? No, I don't think it's, I don't press the right button. No. Sorry. T'as vu où? Alors, c'est là? Non, là, je reviens derrière. Non. Et toi, je suis pour reculer. En fait, tu vas toujours en avance. Okay, that's finished. Thank you. Okay. Thank you. So we are a bit older than you, 10 years older than you. We have been created in 1939 by two remarkable persons. Jean Perrin, on the right, who was Nobel Prize of Physics in 1926, and Jean Zay, probably you is less known, but he's the Minister of Education And so he was at the origin of CNRS, which is already not so bad, but also to Palais de la Découverte, which is a big French museum devoted to sciences, but also to Festival de Cannes. I don't know whether you know Festival de Cannes for movies, one of the most famous worldwide festival. And he did all that before 1944, where unfortunately he was murdered by Vichy militias, and he was only 40 years old. So at the very beginning, CNRS was quite small, only 40 labs, only 1,000 permanent staff, mainly in Paris area, and mainly in physics, even if we had already some activities in biology and humanities and social sciences. Nowadays, CNRS is bigger. It's bigger. We have 32,000 employees. Among them, 28,000 are scientists, either researchers or engineers or technicians. Our budget, we are a public research organization. Our budget is something like 4 billion euros. 75% comes directly from the state, and the last 25% are money that our teams obtain through competitive calls, either at the French level or the European level, or with industrial partners. We are organized scientifically in 10 divisions. I will give you the list here. So in French, we call them instituts, but I think it's misleading. The right translation should be probably division. So as you see, we cover all fields of science: mathematics, computer science, engineering, chemistry, physics. Particle physics, for historical reasons, is in a different division. Earth science and astronomy, ecology and environment, biological sciences, and humanities and social sciences. So I would like to go back now. No. Yes, not too bad. Okay. No. You have to go at the end and then, okay. Why not? That's video. Okay. Sorry. No, it's easy. You have to go, if you want to go to the previous one, you have to do the end and back. That's no problem. So, as I said, we organize in 10 divisions. More important, we have about 1,000 labs all around France. And a particularity of the French system is that all these labs are, in fact, joint labs with French universities. So our system in France is very intricate. You don't have CNRS on one side, university on another side. It's really mixed, what we call unité mixte de recherche, so mixed joint units. These units cover all, of course, all fields of science, but are spread all over France, but also abroad. I will come back on this point now. What is very important also is that even if we do basic research, we'll work a lot with industrial partners. In particular, through what we call joint research structures. We have something like a bit less than 250 such structures in which we still do basic research, but we do basic research on programs, on roadmaps, which have been co-defined with the industrial partner. Either with big companies, but also with a small and sometimes even very small company. We are on the niche and want to keep the advantage, and so they have to work with the best labs in their field. We also create every year between 80 and 100 startups coming from our labs, and in particular with the help of a subsidiary called CNRS Innovation. And concerning the publication, about 2/3 of our publication are international publication in the sense that they are co-authored by somebody from an institution outside France. And we also pay a lot of attention to open science policy. And right now, almost 100, so 94% of our publications are in open access. We are organized, as you can imagine. CNRS is big, so we have to be organized. From a scientific point of view, as I said, we organize in 10 divisions, but upon that, we have 3 deputy CEO. Alain Schul, who is here, who is deputy CEO for science, Jean-Luc Moulet, who is deputy CEO for innovation, and Christophe Coudroy, who is deputy CEO for resources. And we have also all over France, 17 regional offices and some functional divisions, as you can imagine. So I presented already these divisions, just some results, just to which we participate. Most of them are the result of international cooperation. So let me mention, and it will not be a surprise for you here, the Higgs boson, and but also we can mention the questions between engineering, biology, of 3D printing of tissues and organs. A lot of works around Pandora virus. Tara expeditions that you perhaps knows, which is expeditions, in fact, which discoveries unknown branches of life in the oceans. And so they are all over the world in the oceans to obtain, in particular, data and data. We also participate to the gravitational waves discovery or the confirmation of the existence of these waves. Some of our teams also were members of the consortiums who produced the first black hole image that you probably saw. We had a special chantier about Notre Dame, so you know perhaps that there will be a big fire, unfortunately, to Notre Dame, and we had a scientific chantier which covers fields like acoustic, but also like materials, and it was also a way to recall people that science is important everywhere, as Marcio said perfectly. I was speaking with your staff working on the deep learning, that we have also a particularly powerful supercomputer with an accelerator for AI research, and I would be happy to make the link and to see whether we can cooperate through this facility. I imagine, like you, we had a lot of activities around COVID, but in particular, we had a lot of activities concerning mathematical models for COVID. And last of this small series of examples, we were also a member of the consortium who participate to the Perseverance rover, and in particular, French teams were in charge of the scientific instrument called SuperCam. Just to give you a flavor of what we do in CNRS. As I said, our raison d'être is basic research for the benefit of the society, and I think it's important after the crisis we face, and the crisis we still face, first of all, to recall that basic research is not an option. Basic research is fundamental for societies, for all societies, but this fundamental research has to be done, in particular, is done for the benefit of society. First of all, the knowledge we produce are not for us scientists, they are for society, but also they are important for a lot of fields in society. And in CNRS, we decided to have three main targets. Sorry, I have to. Just a break. I come back. Sorry. So as I said, basic research, we have three main targets in basic research. I will come back on them after. It's social global challenges, economic world, and decision making. But first of all, basic research, for us, probably the most important thing, and we discussed of that before, is to recruit and form talents. And it's important, and I said here in CBPF, where I understood that you had some difficulties in the past years to recruit new researchers, and clearly it's fundamental to be able to recruit regularly young researchers, and it's what we try to do all over the world, not only all over France. As you can imagine, we have also some scientific priorities. But more generally, we were in charge or in co-charge of something of 90 of all the French research infrastructures. Okay, just one word about our scientific priorities. I will not enter in details. I just would like to emphasize on the fact that I explained to you that CNRS is organized in 10 divisions. As you can imagine, each of these divisions is already quite big. And our main objective is precisely to not have 10 divisions working in silo, but to develop pluridisciplinary, interdisciplinary, multidisciplinary work. Is probably the principal task of Alain. And that's why, in particular, we decided to present this our main priorities, not division per division, but through 6 main fields that are listed here. So, as I said, we really aim to do this basic research for the benefit of the society with the 3 targets I mentioned already. Concerning global social challenges, we have decided to put a particular attention to 6 of them. So you have the list here, so they will not surprise you. Otherwise, it would not be social challenges. But one important point that we'd like to emphasize on is the fact that to treat these global challenges, to give knowledge for people, we need cooperations between sciences, including cooperations between basic sciences and the humanities and social sciences. And of course, all these 6 global challenges take place in the Sustainable Development Goals of the United Nations, on which we pay a particular attention, and in particular, we play an important role in 2 international panel, IPCC that you know, and IPBES about biodiversity. Some words about economical world. It's very important for us. Once again, I would look to emphasize on that we want with them to do fundamental research. We don't do applied research. Sometimes I even say that I don't know what is applied research, so we cannot do it. But we want to apply our results of fundamental research. And we do it, as I said already, through this, mainly through these joint research structures with companies. We are also proud of what we call pre-maturation program. The idea is to have some proof of concepts and to go from TRL 0, TRL 1 to TRL 3. That's very important to know if an idea coming from a lab can be transferred to society, and it's something that we support particularly. And our policy of patents is not to have our own patents, but mainly to have co-filling patents with company, and we are quite proud to be the first French research institution in this ranking. And here you have a list of some companies, big companies with whom we have joint labs. Our main partners is Total Energy, which is also present here in Brazil, with whom we have something like 10 joint research structures. And among these companies, as I said, some of them are here in Brazil. And it means also that if we think to the future, we could imagine to have collaborations with them also here. One word about support to decision making, but also to understanding. As Marcio said before, it's very important to explain that science. I will not say that science is the solution, because I think that people have to understand. These decision makers have to decide. But we are here to bring them knowledge in order to have the best knowledge precisely to take this decision. And so we pay a lot of attention, and we have a lot of efforts to produce knowledge for society in the large. And very briefly, we have to do that. We think that we have three particular assets. As I said already, a unique potential of interdisciplinarity through our 10 divisions, an exceptional network of academic French partners due to the systems that I briefly described, but also, and I would like to take some time on that, a remarkable set of international cooperations, and clearly it's fundamental for us. So we have structures in 38 countries. We are also member of almost 90 international research infrastructures. Even if we do not deliver PhD in the French system, we have our own PhD programs, which can be strange, but it's like that. And we have 25 such joint programs with worldwide institutions, mainly university, of course. We have a series of tools that I will explain to you in a moment. We are also very present at the European level. In particular, we are the first beneficiary of the Horizon 2020 framework program. So you could say, okay, they are so big that it's normal that they are number one, which is not false. But nevertheless, for instance, if I look to the ERC, European Research Council, which is clearly considered as an indicator of excellence, we are number one, and more than half of all grantees working in France are CNRS employees, and they represent much less than 50, which shows that the results that we have is not only due to our size. And we have, in particular, or in addition, a long-term plan for Africa to develop scientific relations with different countries in Africa. Concerning our international presence all over the world, so we have 10 representation offices, 4 in Asia, 1 in India, 1 in Japan, which covers also Taiwan and South Korea, 1 in China, 1 in Singapore, 1 in Australia, which covers also New Zealand, 1 in South Africa, which covers all Africa, 1 in US, which covers also Mexico, 1 in Canada, and last but not least, 1 in Brazil, here in Rio. And I suppose that all of you know Liviu, who is here, and thank you very much, Liviu, for all what you do, and you will do. You have here a map of all our international labs all over the world. So you see that this map is dead a little. You could imagine that right now we do not have any more active lab with Russia, for instance, even if we had 5 of them before the war. Of course, as you can imagine, we stopped any official relations with Russia. But you see that we are present every year. But we are convinced that we should do more, and we could do more in Brazil. I will come back to this. But just one last point concerning these international labs, that we have even few of them for international labs, so not in France, but with French industrial partners, with Thales in Singapore, with Saint-Gobain in Japan, with Naval Group in Australia, and with Solvay, which formally is not a French company, but a Belgian company, but with Solvay in China. And last point concerning our international key figures is that the fact that we recruit every year a third of our permanent researchers outside France, and we travel a lot. Our researchers travel a lot, as you can imagine. Some two or three slides now concerning the CNRS Brazil co-publications, which is clearly a sign of existing relations and cooperations between our countries. So you see that our first partner in terms of number of paper is USP, and we were there 2 days ago. But just behind, you have Universidade Federal de Rio de Janeiro, and not far, other institution in Rio. And all of that makes Rio academic ecosystem our second most important partner in South America. As I said before, we had a lot of tools to support and develop international cooperations. We have action, we have networks, we have projects, we have labs, we have center. It's not important. There are only tools. What I mean by producing this slide, just to say that we have to find joint subject of cooperations, and I'm sure it will not be difficult due to the existing links. And we have all the appropriate tools for supporting these cooperations, depending of the level of maturity, of the size of the cooperation we want to give. With Rio, some words about in which fields we already cooperate. We had, and we will visit it this afternoon, the international labs with the name of the Jean-Christophe Yoko's IMPA. We work also on ecological and environmental sciences around the tropical coastal ecosystems. We work in earth science and astronomy for the study of South Atlantic circulation. We also work, of course, I would say here in physical sciences concerning biomimetic material, but also in chemical science, once again in mathematics through international networks, and once again in ecology and environmental sciences through marine algae. Just to illustrate the fact that we cooperate, in fact, in a lot of disciplines. I will not say that all the disciplines studied in CNRS are covered, but you can see there are a large spectrum of joint activities. But we have a lot of bilateral cooperations between researchers of the two countries, but few institutional relations, probably too few. And this is precisely the idea of this our visit here, is to study with our Brazilian partners how we can develop, strengthen our cooperations. In particular, how we can invest on young researchers, because even we are still all young, some of us are younger than the others. And we are really convinced that we have to help young researchers of Brazil to come to France, young researchers from France to come to Brazil, perhaps in particular through PhD joint programs. So we are open to any type of cooperations, but we are convinced that relations between France and Brazil should be strengthened, and in particular, of course, in science. And I know that for the French side, we will have the support of the French embassy, the French consulates for that. And a visit of President Macron is perhaps announced this year in Brazil. So it can be also an opportunity to speak of science. And I think we will agree on that, the fact that we have always or regularly to speak science to our politicians, our decision makers. I'm not familiar with the Brazilian history, but from what you said, it seems that it is a bit easier now to speak science with your politicians than some months ago. So we have to use this, of course, this opportunity. Some of you said during the cafe that Brazil is back. So I am very happy of that. In some sense, we always continuously developed in personal relations, but now we can probably go to another step, if I can say. That's it. That's not my slide, is it? Oh yes. Sorry. It's what we will do right now and in the future. So we'll have very soon kickoff meetings for the two new international research projects that we launch. And we will have also, in September, an event to which CNRS will participate, even if it is more a cultural event. I think relations between culture, art, and science are important, and I've been very impressed by your role, which is really a good way, I think, to speak of science to citizens. And so there will be an event in September, or perhaps even in December, now around science and culture related to oceans. So I will stop there. Thank you very much. And I think that you have understood that we are here to visit your labs. And thank you very much for the amazing visit we had. But also we are here to study how we can develop more cooperations between France and Brazil in science. And we had a fruitful discussion in Sao Paulo. We will have a fruitful discussion here. I understand that with in the Brazilian system, the importance of the FAP is clear. So thank you very much to be there. And I'm very happy to hear you. Thanks for your attention.
Thank you very much, President, for the presentation and for the kind words and the encouraging words for our cooperation. Just to tell you before inviting President of FAPERJ for his presentation that we will have time for questions during our roundtable in a few minutes. So don't be frustrated if you don't have time now to ask questions. We will take all the time necessary in a few minutes from now. And now I will invite Professor Gerson da Silva, President of FAPERJ, for his presentation, please.
Well, good morning. Well, I want to greet the president of CNRS, Dr. Petit, and all the delegates from France that I like very much. Especially I love French literature, as you see in my last slide. But I also have some my other hat. I have collaborations also in France, and I'll in Portuguese. This has been a busy week, but I also want to say that Professor Vânia Pasqualin, that is the director of international programs in FAPERJ, is here with us, and well, and also I want to greet all the audience, all the research, especially the women, because today is the International Day of Women. And so, and I know that France, I think France that created this day, at least here, is quite supported by L'Oréal, for example, with price, etc. Okay, let's here. I think I can move. Well, I want to be, I'll be very brief. Do I have it seems that I have some slide, but I want to say that the FAPERJ is the the state funding agents of Rio de Janeiro, Carlos Chagas Filho, and is the second in budget. In fact, these numbers are from 2020, and in fact, we are now more closer to 700 million reais, about $150 million of a budget. And especially in the past 4 years has been very important to support well, of course, the state funding agents like FAPESP, FAPERJ, and all the others amounting to about 4 billion reais. They are very important to support not only fellowship, but also research grants. And particularly FAPERJ in the last years, we have I think if I do the pointer would be here probably. Okay. In the last years we have, especially 2021, but this was true also for 2022. We had a budget closer to on the average of 650 million reais that were given in fellowships, grants, including all the support for international cooperation. And this has been this was true for last year with a little bit less than 2022, and these years we have about the same level of budget of 670 million reais. And we support many programs. I won't tell all the programs we support. We have a special focus on young research, and this has been since the creation. FAPERJ was created in 1980, and especially in the last 20 years, it has supported many programs, including advanced postdocs, for example, what we call these grade 10 programs for graduate studies and students and postdocs. And we, of course, we have, as we know, we had some decrease in the last 6-7 years of the support of federal agents, and the state funding agents had to put more money in, or at least try to face this problem. We hope that in the next years that things will be better, and especially we had to put a lot of efforts on the combat of COVID-19, supporting diagnostic tools and genomic problems, vaccine problems, etc. So that was very important because we had the academia, not only in Rio de Janeiro, but in Brazil, working very hard to at least to try to decrease the effects of COVID-19. Well, we have many programs. Of course, I don't have time to talk about all of them because I'll focus more precisely on international cooperation. But all of our grants, they are very flexible to support partnerships with other countries. We know that international cooperation is very important, and we know that as in the beautiful presentation of Professor Petit, that the CNRS is a model for the world in terms of not only developing excellent research in France, but also expanding that for the whole world. So we do hope. It's not going. Oh, 4 weeks ago. Well, we have several calls, and of course we try to act not only supporting research, but also support the infrastructure of research in Rio de Janeiro. So we have several kind of national labs in different areas, and also network programs. So we have a research here, for example, that belong to the nanotechnology program. There is a program, a special program, a nanotechnology network, a health network. Of course, in COVID, we had several networks, and trying to put researchers together to make not only to improve the use of the facilities, but also the cooperation. And I would just go straight. We have of course, when I started this, I had been before a scientific director, but when I started as a president in 2019, I invited Vania to be the director of international cooperation. So we have, and we do most of the cooperation using the CONFAP, that is the coordination of foundations. And so we have acting several programs. Again, I won't detail all of them, but I think particularly we have a very strong program with France, and of course we want to increase this program. So we had what happened with my? Okay, I think I put it the wrong way. And so that's I merged the presentation of Vania here, that just going to talk about the last three programs, right? Since 2019, in partnership with the French Embassy and a program of catheters. And the last, we had now a third edition that's in 2023. So we had two former edition and this ongoing third edition of this program that is to support international mobility and from both sides, and with the main goal to stimulate the cooperation between labs in the state of Rio de Janeiro and labs in France. So this was the chronogram. So we have the call, right? Now in April will be the third call. But of course, this is one initiative. As I mentioned, as I showed very quickly, we had several other initiatives, like with European unity and etc. And of course, we would love to have a special call with CNRS and think of we have a cooperation with different with a federal agency, with private agents. Particularly, we are honored to have in the state of Rio de Janeiro the headquarters of Instituto Serrapilheira, that is chaired by a French. I know that we stole him from he was a CNRS research, or is, I don't know. But anyway, this institute has been very important to support, is by far the largest private funding agency in Brazil. It's small, but it's doing a lot of calls. For example, I just had a call with Instituto Serrapilheira to support Black and indigenous people working on ecology, and it's a small program. And today, we based in several other programs, we'll be launching a special program for women, and that's how we do it. And so, if we establish a program with, for example, with CNRS, we can do it. We will hear CNRS to tell us what do you prefer. For example, should we focus on physics, or should we focus on this particular area, and should we have more money for travels and visitors, or should it additionally contribute with the expenditures with the research? So we are very open. As you can see, in the case of this program with the French embassy, is a small program of about 306,000 reais, but we think that it's very important. So a good program doesn't need to have a lot of money. We have to design to reach its acts. And of course, as I mentioned 2 minutes ago, the pandemic was, of course, we had several plans for the international collaboration. We have to put it down, but we are now we want in 2000, particularly in 2023, launch several or relaunch most of these programs, and especially there are some ideas, for example, of having special fellowships for research that come from other countries, senior research and young research too, but also senior with, of course, that can cover the costs in Brazil, particularly in Rio de Janeiro. And I think these are the ongoing calls of the national program of FAPERJ. We had last year we had this program called Luiz Pinguelli Rosa to support research from regions in conflict, and of course that was inspired because of the tragedy of the war in Ukraine, but of course is open for several other places, including Russia, of course, and many other countries. And Vanya then maybe later on can give the details how this is going on, and many other programs, as I mentioned, most of them in collaboration with CONFAP, and in particular this third program with the French embassy that is in ongoing evaluation. So this is the FAPERJ website and just to finish, say that is the mission of FAPERJ to try to not only to support the research, but also try to, especially in Brazil, we have, and I noticed that in the presentation of Dr. Petit, was very important to show the this translation with startup programs and etc. Although we support 60–70% of our support is for basic research, we know that it's from basic research that comes the most innovative and disruptive actions, and so we need to do that. And of course, that's another area that we probably have a lot to learn with France, and to make this bridge between our university centers of research. Brazil is around the number 13 in terms of knowledge production, as measured by scientific papers, but we are still quite behind in terms of innovation. And I always bring this when I go to talk to the governor or to the secretary, even to the minister, I always say that I want to quote Dr. Lasker. I remember she fight a lot to, and I remember that once Nixon wants to decrease in 30% of the budget of NIH, and she told Nix to the president of the United States, if you think research expense, try disease. She was very smart because Nixon had several problems, especially with cancer, and in fact that was the start point of a great program of support of cancer research, and a lot of the development we had in the last 30, 40 years to combat cancer was because of the research done, support by NIH. And so I think that's still true. And as I mentioned in the beginning, sorry for that is in Portuguese, it's not in French. Is my is the writer that I like more, Marcel Proust. I did read the 7 volumes in Portuguese, few volumes in English, and a single one in French. Or at least I since I have read twice, I think it was easy to read in French. I'm rereading now. That was 20 years ago, and then I like it to this statement. If you have Bruce in the second book, in French is how do you say? No, à la recherche du temps perdu, but a sombra das raparigas em flor. Yeah, exactly. So and in one of the dialects says, well, if you have if you are getting sick of dreaming, is not less dream that is going to cure you, is seeing more dream. I think what we're doing here in establishing this connection is dreaming with a very strong connection between Brazil, particularly Rio de Janeiro, and France. And thank you very much.
Thank you very much, President. And now it's not time for a break. Sorry if you were expecting for a break, but it's time for starting our roundtable. And my main preoccupation since last Sunday is time. Is how time is running fast. And since last Sunday, actually, I'm with the French delegation, and each minute it's like 60 seconds, not more nor less. So that is why we're going to start right now the roundtable. And if we have enough time, and I hope that we'll also have time to ask some questions to our both presidents and to our director, Marcio. So we had the opportunity to listen and to see what were our respective visions, both at FAPERJ and at CNRS. If you saw that in our presentation, in Professor Antoine Petit's presentation, you saw the missions that we have at CNRS, you saw the organization that we have, you saw the values that we are fighting for, and you saw also several elements regarding the international cooperation. And this was actually, if I would say, the main focus. And this will be also right now with the roundtable, the opportunity to zoom in this international cooperation and to see how things are going and how things are done on the field, on the battlefield. On the other side, we saw the vision of FAPERJ. President Gerson da Silva showed us how FAPERJ is organized, but also how FAPERJ is supporting the research here in Rio de Janeiro. And we also see what is the vision for the international cooperation, and mainly what is the state of the cooperation with France, and what are the wishes, and what would be the path that we could follow for amplify this cooperation. So there are a lot of things to be done and to be discussed, and that is why we are here today, and we will stay here and we'll continue to discuss and to amplify all this. But if we are also today here is to celebrate a long-term friendship in between French researchers and Brazilian researchers. And if I'm telling long-term, you will see in Karine and Selm's presentation what is long-term and how fruitful can be this kind of presentation. And we will see that this friendship is not only about publishing papers and managing in common students and traveling and see how things can be done in our respective countries, but it is also how to push the boundaries of the interdisciplinary research. And this is key, actually. This is very important. Antoine Petit told us that our organization in institutes of research is something which is looking disciplinary from outside, but it's actually quite cross boundaries from inside, and we have to put a lot of energy in crossing the frontiers in between the disciplines. And this is exactly what our friends from here, from CBPF and from France, are doing since a long time ago. And they will testify actually what things have been done and how they are doing this and how they are planned and they are dreaming to continue this in the next years to come. So now I will just present them to you, and I will read my notes because I don't want to lose one word of their training and the way they did research until now. So I will start to present Karine Anselm. She is research director at CNRS, and she is principal investigator at the Institut de Sciences des Matériaux de Mulhouse. Karine is a cell biologist interested in biointerfaces and biomaterials, and you will see that the name of the project is actually using these both words. She has published more than 130 papers on in vitro and in vivo studies of interaction of cells and or tissues with biomaterials. And from 1990 to 2003, she was the leader of the cell material interactions team at the Research Laboratory of Biomaterials and Biotechnologies at the University of Littoral Côte d'Opale. And since October 2003, she is CNRS Research Director at the Institute of Material Science of Mulhouse and leader of the biointerfaces team. Now I will continue to present all of them. Christelle Leroy, she will be one of the panelists of the roundtable. She is research director at CNRS and director of the International Relations Division at the CNRS headquarters in Paris at CNRS. She's researcher in subatomic physics at particle colliders carried out within major European or international collaborations. And in 2011, she took over the management of the Hubert-Curien Pluridisciplinary Institute in Strasbourg. And in November 2020, she joined the CNRS headquarters as project manager for Europe with the General Director for Science. And between 2017 and 2021, she was Vice President for Strategies and Developments at the University of Strasbourg. Alexandre Rossi, is principal investigator here at CBPF, and he's co-leader of the B3 Lab International Research Project. And he undergraduated in physics at the Universidade Federal do Rio Grande do Sul. He got his PhD in physics here at CBPF. He went to study at Université Joseph Fourier in Grenoble, and he is actually senior researcher of the Brazilian Center for Research here at the CBPF. His areas of interest: biomaterials, nanomaterials for drug delivery systems, and regenerative medicine. And last but not least, Marcos Farina, professor at the Universidade Federal do Rio de Janeiro, co-leader of a second international research project that we will also have several words during the roundtable. He undergraduated in physics. He got his PhD in biophysics. And he complemented his formation in the United States in 1990. He is full professor at the Institute of Biomedical Sciences at Universidade Federal do Rio de Janeiro, and his areas of interest are biomineralization, biomagnetism, and nanocrystals. So we're going to start, and we're going to start with Karine, because as I told you, it's a long-term history, and she prepares several slides. And afterwards, we're going to invite all of them here in front of you to continue the discussion.
Thank you, Liviu, and I thank you for the invitation to present our collaboration, long-term collaboration that we started, you will see, more than 18 years ago. So first of all, I will tell you the story of the international research project B3 Lab. B3 Lab means actually the biointerfaces, the biomaterials, the biominerals and the biointerfaces, and sorry, change my hand. We are interested in the interactions of different biological objects, cells, proteins, and biological tissues with different sort of materials, and especially ceramics. And we are also interested to use new tools, for example, synchrotron in Campinas, to study the interaction of bone tissues with ceramics. Or in Limoges, we are developing bioreactors to favor the interaction of cells with the biomaterials. In Mulhouse, we are doing, for example, live cell imaging to study the biophysics of cells using microtextured materials. So, as I said, we started our collaboration in 18 years ago with Euler Arrojo dos Santos, who was a PhD student under the supervision of Professor Gloria Suarez from COPI at UFRJ and Professor Marcos Farina here at UFRJ also. And he asked for doing a sandwich PhD in my team. He was interested in ceramics and the influence of human cells, osteoblasts, and it was really interesting for me to collaborate with this group on these subjects. And so this collaboration was really fruitful. And you see that now Euler is assistant professor at Federal University of Sergipe. And then we decided to apply to a new project, which is actually a project that associates the CAPES with the Brazilian Agency for Funding Research, and COFECUB, which is the same on the French side. And we decided to invite other collaborators, and you see that Gloria and Marcos invited José Grangero, who is present also today, and Luis Eduardo Almeida from the University Federal of Sergipe, and Alexandre Rossi, who is a researcher here in CBPF. On the French side, I invited collaborators I had at that time, and we were Eric Champion, professor at the Institute of Research on Ceramics in Limoges, and he had common interest with Alexandre Rossi here, and Jacques Werkman, who was a research engineer at the Institute of Physics and Chemistry of Materials in Strasbourg, who was specialized in high-resolution transmission microscopy, and especially to study biomineralization. And Jacques had a lot of possible connection with Marcos Farina. So here you have the list of the different subjects that we developed in this project. Just I want to emphasize that we exchange 9 PhD, 2 masters, and 3 postdocs, and we systematically produce international publication together. So I will just go through in some example of the PhD that we had. The first one to come in France was Helena Marques da Silva, who did a sandwich PhD together with Limoges and Mulhouse labs. And you see that finally she decided to stay in France, and she did work in private company related to biomaterials. Doris Mora Campos, who was also developing biomaterials based on collagen and hydroxyapatite for cell therapy. She did a co-tutel PhD, so she had both the Brazilian and French diploma. And she also stayed in France, and she worked during a long time in a private company in France doing bone implants, and she decided recently to start again medical studies in Grenoble to become medical doctor. So we had also collaboration coming from the University Federal of Sergipe in the Northeast, and Luis Eduardo Almeida, who was actually, sorry, I want to come back, was at that time assistant professor at the Federal University of Sergipe, stayed 1 year in our lab, and he was followed by his PhD, Paolo, who continued the work on these composites. And you see that they are both now professor at the Federal or the Centro Universitario de Nassau in Sergipe. Deborah dos Santos Tavares was interested in ceramics and especially substituted hydroxyapatite and beta-TCP and the interaction with bone cells. And she is also professor at the Federal University of Sergipe. You see that each time we produce different papers together. Another research line of the project was the study of biomineralization by high-resolution electron microscopy. And André Linares-Rossi did a sandwich PhD in IPCMS in Strasbourg under the supervision of Jacques Werkman, who was engineer of research there. And Andrea Portocarrera Campos was postdoc here in InMetro and came to IPCMS to develop skills in this high-resolution microscopy. And you see that Andre is now a researcher here in CBPF, and Andrea is now engineer in a high-resolution transmission electron microscopy platform at Aix-Marseille University. William did the studies on the effect of drugs, anti-osteoporotic drugs against, to see how these drugs influence the interaction of bone cells with the biomaterials. And he is now research assistant in US. And finally, Lilian Fernanda Santos Paiva was dentist and was interested in dental polymeric materials with antibacterial activity. And she did a co-tutel in my group under the supervision of Dr. Lee Diplou, who developed bacteria studies with Rosanna Thierry from COPI in UFRJ, who is a specialist of polymer science. So this long history finally conducted our colleagues from Limoges to apply for CNRS funding this time. And it was a CNRS funding with the CNPq fundings about functionalization of bioceramics. And they collaborated directly with the group here in CBPF. And there was a nice exchanges of PhD students from France to Brazil and from Brazil to France. And here you have the testimony of Marie-Lise Gorset, who was actually, we came twice in CBPF. She did 2 PhD internships, and she testified effectively that it was a really enriching experience. And you see that she, with this experience, international experience, she became associate professor at the Université Polytechnique Hauts-de-France. Jacques Werkman, who was engineer in IPCMS in Strasbourg, decided after his retirement to join the Brazilian groups. And maybe the people who I'm talking about, they are connected, so maybe they can switch on their camera, and then you can see that Jack is there. And Jack finally came in Brazil because at that time, Alexandre Rossi, José Grangeiro, and Marcos Farina had both very nice and very potent, powerful high-resolution microscope, and Jacques helped them to develop studies on that. After that, my colleagues from Brazil proposed to me to apply to a fellowship, the special visiting researcher from CENSA Sin Fronteiras program. And at that time, I switched my research from biomaterials to biophysics. So we decided to develop also this aspect here in Brazil. And we have the possibility with this fellowship to recruit a postdoc. And Pablo Rougerie joined the group of Marcos Farina and Nathan Viana, and he developed very interesting studies on the use of on textured surfaces to understand cell behavior. And after that, we applied to CNRS funding, which at that time was called PICS, and I think that now it's the EER or EER, yes. Anyway, and the name was biointerfaces because this word gather all people working in this network. And it was again the same. I did something wrong. It was again the same partners. And we had the possibility to do several exchanges between the different labs. And it was, as usual, PhD student, postdoc, etc. But also Amandine Magnaudet, who is present and who represents with me the French partners here today, did stay in CBPF during 2 months. And the next, finally to finish, I would say that we started the international research project B3 Lab in 2021. At that time, it was the lockdown, so we had no possibility to travel, but we decided to organize a symposium, and we choose the Brazilian Materials Research Science meeting, and we propose a symposium on the subject of the B3 Lab. And we invited the 4 plenary speakers, and we had 24 orals and 34 posters. Last year, I came with all my team to visit the Brazilian partners, and 2 colleagues from IRSER also came to visit Rio de Janeiro and visit the facilities and meet actually the colleague directly, physically. And very recently, the Professor Katia Carneiro from the group of Marcos Farina came in my lab during 3 months, and it was really fruitful because she has a very interesting skills in cell biology that help us a lot for our research. So during all this story, of course, we shared scientific experience. It's very important. We formed a lot of PhD and postdoc. But what is also important is that we share human experience, culture, friendship. And we are really, I think, ready to continue to develop for a longer term collaboration in the framework of the International Research Laboratory System from CNRS. And we could associate the B3 Lab with the FEED-MM that was presented before, that is actually connecting IPCMS with the group of Marcos Farina. And I thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Karine. So you're going to stay here and take a seat, please. And also Marcos, Christelle, and Alexandre, you can come here. Take a seat, please. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. So you saw that that's a long time story, a long-lasting story. But this was the French vision. It was the other side of the Atlantic Ocean vision. So we're gonna know now the details of how this story has been felt and constructed from this side of the Atlantic Ocean. And for this, I'm gonna ask to Alexandre to tell us how he lived this and how he constructed this with Karine and Marcos during all those years.
Okay. Thank you very much, Livio. Good morning for all, especially for the women present. I would like to thank the presence of this meeting of the Antonin Petit, the president of CNRS, the president of FAPERJ, Gerson Lima, and the members of CNRS. Answering the question from Dr. Livio, I agree that this scientific collaboration project has been a very productive experience for us. From the thematic point of view, the 3B Lab is well organized to investigate the state of the art on interactions of biological systems and biocompatible materials in search of safer and more effective biomaterials for human health. For this, we join a team of specialists of different areas, such as molecular and cellular biology, orthopedics and dentistry, material science, physics, allowing a broader knowledge of our objects of study. Our experimental infrastructure at the University Federal of Rio de Janeiro and CBPF, and all our collaborators at the National Institute of Metrology and the Federal Fluminense University allows translational research and complemented those existing in the labs of our partners in Mulhouse and Limoges. We can work from the synthesis and the processing of materials to the in vitro, preclinical, and clinical evaluations. Our laboratories are equipped to execute physical, chemical, and biological characteristics and nanometer scales. I highlight the electronic and optical microscopy facilities from the Nanoscience and Nanotechnology Laboratory at CBPF and the National Center of the Structural Biology and Bioimage of the University Federal of Rio de Janeiro. The centers are among the most qualified in the country. Nanoscale investigation, we also conducted in the Brazilian synchrotron the series. With this condition, we have the tools for high quality scientific production and training students and technical personnel within a multidisciplinary approach. Despite our difficult economic and political national scenarios, we have had significant support from the Research Foundation of Rio de Janeiro, FAPERJ, for renovating our labs, maintaining research activities, and the dynamism of scientific collaborations. What could be improved? We think that for a 5-year project, it's necessary to facilitate the long-term stay of students and postdocs. Finally, I would like to grateful the collaborative relationships of the French team during our missions in France, and especially for Dr. Karine Anselm in organizing and leading this big project. Thank you very much. This is my opinion about this. What's happening to our collaboration, our project. And I'm very glad to be inside this project with the partners from Mulhouse and Limoges.
Thank you very much, Alexandre. Very nice testifying for that. And we had now a clear vision of how this started with 2, but not only 2, but 3 pillars in order to have an equilibrium, a solid equilibrium, long-lasting equilibrium. We have to have 3 points of support, and Marcos is the 3rd pillar of this cooperation. And you saw during the presentation made by Dr. Anselm that Marcos is here since the beginning also. And with such a lot of people involved, finally, there has been room for a 2nd project, international project. And we had the good news a few weeks ago that this 2nd project is also notified and is going to start this year with Ovidio Ersen in Strasbourg. And it's finally a project also where we are finding the same keywords: biomineralization, biomimetics, biointerfaces, characterization, all of this. And I would like you to give us, Marcos, your vision about the way in which you see the articulation in between both international projects right now.
Thank you. Well, I'm also glad to be here. It's very, very nice to be here. And it's a good emotion to see that Jacques and other people was there. I don't know if they are, unfortunately, probably now the network is not working. Well, In fact, we never separated because the project with Ovidiu made part of those projects that were presented by Karina Anselm. And in some moment, there was, let's say, a group of physics or material science. Then we did this LIA project, Laboratoire International Associé. It finished 2 years ago, and then we applied for this new international research project. And well, when we wanted to have details on morphology or some more physical approach on the biological subjects, we came to the group of physics from IPSMS. So we can see that in some papers there is Karine Anselmo, Ovidiu, Ersen, and now this project became a little bit larger. This with Ovidiu, Ersen. In the first project, LIA, we had UFRJ, we had IPSMS, and we had CBPF. Now we have a group in France from Laboratoire de Chimie de la Matière Condensée, Thierry Azaz, Nadine Nassif, Clément Sanchez, which is very, very known. We have also other people from UFRJ. The group was enlarged. We have people from Universidade de São Paulo, which are two biochemists, Pietro Ciancalini and Ana Paula Ramos. We have people from Synchrotron Laboratory, Edson Leite, Victor Zelaya, and Gisele Dalmônico. From UFRJ, we have researchers that are now working with the molecular biology, like Danielle Cabral Bonfim, Sarah Gemini Piperni, works testing materials in biological systems. André Rossi, of course, from CBPF, that made part of the LIA project. Jacques Werkman, that were our, let's say, our mentor in high-resolution microscopy, in the physicist that was very important for us to develop electroenergy loss spectroscopy, X-ray microanalysis, and high-resolution microscopy. So now it's very nice that we can officially be something together. I discussed with Ovidiu recently. He's also thinking that is a very good idea, because in fact we already work together. This new project with Ovidiu enlarged, but it's very good that biochemists come to this cooperation.
Thank you, Marcos. And I also believe that this is a good opportunity to have the vision of what we could do with those two international projects in the future. And I mean, we are very pleased to have with us Christelle Roy, who is our Director of International Relations at the CNRS. We already saw during the presentation of our president what are the tools in the toolbox of our international cooperation, but probably we could have a little bit more of details about how all this can be articulated and how this works, and also the vision of what all these stories, Christelle, are inspiring to you.
Merci, Liviu. Hi, everybody. I'm very pleased to be here also. Just it's not the direction of international relation, because there is also a Europe part, and it's quite important, and it could be very interesting also to try to match maybe European dynamics with international cooperation. So maybe more generally, because there are many students, I guess, and young researchers here, and also in by Visio. Maybe just very briefly summarize, well, describe what is our the direction in Paris. Not only in Paris, but we are a team of about 50, 60 persons. Divided, one part in Paris, the other one in the 10 offices abroad. And here you have an example of how we work, because so there is Liviu, which is our director in Rio. There is Jean-Tel that we already we discussed with him. So he's in Paris, and that's why, in fact, it's some kind of complementary expertise that allowed to build some project network internationally. And another thing also is we have here a director of the mathematical division at CNRS, mathematics division at CNRS, and it's very important to understand that first of all that all decision concerning even for emergence very new project starting from the beginning up to more mature project becoming a project or network are decided by the thematic division. So that's why we work very in a complementary way. So the different tools that we operate are, so for emerging action, it's for 2 years, and there are also more mature project at the one we are discussing today. It's over 5 years, and it could be also some networks between different labs. Well, it could be in several countries, and then so it's really some I would say project or networks that come from the researchers, and then it has been decided by our director at the thematic level. So now there are also some programs on mobility for students. So it's not co-tutel as you presented. It's maybe more simpler. You know that the CNRS is not a university, so we do not have diploma possibility. But as our director, president of the CNRS said, we shared laboratories. Most of them are with university, and in fact we have some PhD joint program when that means that we can have some theses found by our organism, by the CNRS, and the same number of theses coming from the country of from our partner in the other country. And so for on one subject you have 2 students working in a complementary way, and it's very interesting for the students. There are also some funds in order to allow mobility. And what's important maybe also to know is that this is a general framework, and of course, since we are collaborating in more than well, almost 40 countries all around the world, we have to adapt these tools depending on the countries, but also depending on the institution. We will not do maybe the same thing in Africa or here or in the US and so on. So, well, maybe feel free to present your project, and then we can see if we need to adapt our tools or not. So now, if I come back more specifically on the project, and for sure it's very interesting to discuss it now on the possibility, but I think the best things to do afterwards is to sit all together and to describe more precisely the next steps. Of course, we all have to gain if project merge, because, well, you know, it increases multidisciplinary and so on. So there is no way that no doubt that it could be very interesting. And the difference between research program and networks is that when we talk about laboratories, it's really a structure. In fact, it's like our labs in France. It is shared now with our partners in another country, and well, I think it's a structure that can welcome students, short-term position, and that's why it's very it's really another way to cooperate. It's also a way to attract people, because we can welcome them. There is a team, conference can be made, and well, such as a lab, in fact. And but once again, it has to be discussed with the director of the scientific division. Then, well, it depends also, and we discussed very briefly before the session started this morning, but these labs are all around the world, almost near to 80. They are very also, well, not so very, but they are different between labs of maths, labs in physics, labs in humanities, because the communities are different and do not have always the same needs. And here again, we can adapt, well, I would say the concept, in fact, of this international lab to your needs, in fact. And that's why it has to be worked, I would say, afterwards, and to make a very, well, not very, but to make a detailed proposal, in fact, in terms of, well, governance also, and also what could be the future, in fact, of your project. Well, it's not to me it's not on my perimeter to say that you have to continue in one way or another way. I'm not scientifically pertinent, but well, since these projects are starting, and in particular your project B3 lab, that it could be very, very interesting to think about the next 5 years. So to have the next step, and also if we speak about a lab, to see how we can construct with a Brazilian, for instance, agency. And I was very pleased that the funding agency here would like us to define our priorities. And I think that the co-construction also in terms of funds is very important also, because it allows to share a strategy of deployment.
Thank you very much, Christelle. Do you have any reactions here, or yeah, go ahead, Marcus.
I would like to complete your question, because you asked me why to join. And I think to join physics and biology is really very important, because I think that one of the most biggest problems now is scale. So temporal scale and resolution scale, physical length scales. So this cooperation, for example, with the VIDU, with the PSMS, they have an in situ microscopy where you can do inside the electron microscope, you can do experiments. And then you see, for example, crystals growing, and analyze this by high resolution, by some X-ray microanalysis. And at the same time, in UFRJ or CBPF, I don't know if Gerson is still here, we have a possibility to do cryomicroscopy. So we can do two types of approaches for the same problem. We can begin a reaction and then stop and look this frozen. So this would be a good contribution, big contribution, the, let's say, state of the art in biological questions, particularly, for example, biomaterials, interaction with cells or tissues or biominerals, and the problem of atomic resolution.
So now you are getting us back to the multidisciplinary and the interdisciplinary challenges, which are very important. Transdisciplinary challenges, yeah. Yes, I fully agree. I think that we are closing to our end of the meeting, but we have still a bit of time to end this, to open the session for questions from the public, and for all the persons that already presented or participated to the roundtable. So please feel free to ask if you have any questions or if you have any comments. This is the most difficult moment where everybody's thinking about what could I ask? Should I ask something? Anyway, you saw that the meeting was very informal and a little bit formal. So now we are in the informal part. So you can ask anything you want.
In Brazil, everything began with Gloria Soares. Please, your hands or something. Yes, you. Thank you very much, Gloria, to be here.
So any questions or comments? Yeah.
Yes, I am from CBPF, Constantino Tsalis, a physicist. I would like to make a comment because I noticed that several people, including Dr. Petit and also the president of FAPERGI, to quantify collaborations such as France, Rio, France, FAPERGI, etc., they were quoting the number of publications, of joint publications. My comment would be that it might be very, very instructive to use, together with the number of publications, the number of citations of those publications.
Yeah, sure. We have also this choice actually when we are building our analysis. But in order not to charge too much the slides, we are choosing either one or the other version. But you're right, of course, we have also this information. Sure. Other questions or comments? Now that we are warming up. No? Yeah.
Thank you very much for the presentations that I've seen today. I'm here in a role of international relations for the Centre for Health Sciences, and it's very interesting for me to learn what the possibilities might be and how we might grow what Marcus has obviously already been doing for a very long time. What I took out of the talk from the president was the importance of joint PhD studies, even though you don't offer necessarily PhDs, as the way ahead for Brazil. And I'm curious to know how you got to that decision. It's something that I agree with, but I was wondering, CNRS is obviously a very large organization, and I was curious to know how you got to that through your French university partnerships.
Yes, thank you for the question. So as I explained, we do not deliver PhD, okay? But and we know that in France there are two systems, either co-tutelle or co-advisors. I think, in fact, few French universities are in favor of co-tutelle because it's complicated to put in place from a legal point of view, whereas co-advisors is quite easy. And so for CNRS, since we do not deliver PhD, we don't, in fact, I would say we don't care. Co-advisor is very important. And of course, it means also, if you have co-advisor, it means also that you need to spend time in both countries and not to have one co-advisor in one country that you never see. It's very important to know the two environments of the labs. So co-advisors is easy. Just a remark about CNRS, that's the particularity of the French system. Even if we do not deliver a PhD, our senior researcher can advise PhD students and can advise them alone without the necessity to have one name of a professor. They are considered as professor and can be advisors. So we are really in favor of that. And if some French university agree to have some co-tutelle with some Brazilian university or centers which deliver PhD, why not? But it's much easier to have co-advisors. But it's true that at the end, you will not have a double degree. You'll have only the degree of one university. But if you say that this degree was really with two co-advisors, I think that for the CV, it's not too bad.
Wait a minute.
Hi, I'm Israel Felsenschwab from the State University of Rio de Janeiro. I had a chance to go to France in a Capish Coffee Cube agreement in the late 80s and beginning of the 90s. And I was at University of Jussier as a student and working at a Unité de Recherche CNRS ao Instituto Gustavo Roussy, à Villejuif. So it's completely possible. Okay, I got my degree from Jussier, but I worked in a lab.
Thank you very much. And it's nice to see that it's what's most practicable, that's what's driving the decision-making. From our side, from UFRJ side, is that we are really trying to simplify the co-coutel situation. And it's not applicable for CNRS, but it is applicable for French universities, where we simplify it down to just having one agreement with a university, and then we don't have to go through all the bureaucratic process. We do it once, and we've managed to do this twice so far. So with the university in Portugal and with the university in England. So it's not for CNRS, but it is for French universities, and it's obviously a good mixture. But I'm very happy to see that what's easy and simple is driving the decision, and hopefully we'll get there.
If I can say that it was a long way to finally have the possibility to do co-tutel, but my university is very small one, University of Haute-Alsace. And so finally we achieved to have an agreement with UFRJ. But when it's large university, I guess that it's not so simple in Limoges also. So yeah, it's depending of the university you are collaborating with.
Another question here.
So just to follow up on the comments. So my name is Nasser Boubena, and I'm the scientific attaché at the French embassy in Brasilia, but taking care of Rio de Janeiro. And just to make a quick comment on this co-tutel thing, we are trying to help the universities to get big, let's say, yeah, not to have like a one by one, because we used to have this one lab would do one particular accord to do that, but we're trying to do like big ones between two big universities. And for instance, UFRJ has many with Aix-Marseille, with the university you mentioned as well. But we are promoting that, and because we completely agree with the fact that PhD students and exchanges are basically long-term collaborations, scientific collaborations, and basically the beginning of really long-term collaborations. So and we will promote that with all the programs, the PhD programs that we will launch this year in at the French embassy.
Thank you very much, Nasser. Yeah, go ahead, Renato, please.
Thank you, Liv. Yes, I was very glad to see this new arrangement of the international labs with the companies involved. My question is whether this is being intensified at the moment, and whether you should have a company that's basically French, or you could have more than one company, or even a national company participating. And what do you expect from the companies? What kind of involvement, some sort of financial involvement somehow, or bringing problems in, or trying to motivate the collaboration somehow? Thank you. Okay, my name is Renato Cota. I am an engineering professor at COPI.
Thank you for your questions. We are open to anything, so nothing is forbidden. So we can have agreement with several companies of several different nationalities. The only problem, not a problem, but it's a point that we are paid by the French state. And if all our PI goes to foreign companies at some time, we could have problems. But we have strong relations in France with foreign companies, and so we could imagine to have relations either in France or here in Brazil with Brazilian companies. That's not what we hope to get from the company is not money at first time. It's not money, is interesting scientific problems. Because at CNRS, researchers in some sense are free. So even as CEO of CNRS, I cannot force a researcher to work on a subject on which he has no interest or she has no interest. That's you can find this good or bad. Personally, I find this good. Researchers have to decide on which subject they are interested in. So why is it a success? When it is a success? Precisely because we have defined with the industrial partner interesting scientific questions of interest for the company. And so that's the key point. So we should, first of all, need to have a joint roadmap, or perhaps roadmap is too precise, a joint research programs. And of course, after that, we want to see that the company is ready to invest in these corporations. This can be done through PhD grants. This can be done through time of researchers. This can be done by external money. But we never have to start by that. It's not a good way to treat such a question. First of all, what is the joint scientific interest, and then to find the appropriate tools. Sometimes it could happen in France, at least, that with a company, we go at the French National Agency or the European level to get money. But really, the first point is what are our joint subject of interest, and after that, each of the partner has to invest, of course, in this cooperation.
Thank you very much, President. So I think we are more or less done. I would like to thank our panelists, our speakers, all of you for having free time to be with us this morning. I think that there was a very enriching morning, a lot of informations and a lot of encouraging visions for the next steps to come in terms of cooperation in between Brazil and France. Thank you very much. And thank you again for the organization. So it's time to lunch.